Okay, we'll open it up now to public comment. No, you know what, Tim, why don't you do our budget presentation?
Okay, staff has been putting together 2016 budget for the last 2 minutes, and I'll read some of this verbatim. Other stuff I'll skim through. In accordance with Article 11, Section 1102 of the Monroeville Home Rule Charter, the proposed budget of year 2016 is hereby presented for review, discussion, and action. There will be 2 public hearings under the Home Rule Charter. The first one will be October 28th at 7 p.m., and the second one will be November 5th at the work session, also at 7 p.m. Copies are available at the Monroeville Public Library and at my office and on the Monroeville website, www.monroeville.pa.us, for public review. Each year, beginning in August, staff begins gathering and analyzing information for an ensuing year's budget. The 2016 general budget, as prepared, reflects an increase of 0.6% from 2015 to 2016. Even though this is a slight increase from the previous budgeted year, council and general public must recognize that certain expenditures are continuing to significantly increase, those being health care premiums, pension obligation, and the OPEB, other post-employment benefits funding. Another significant expenditure that is becoming more problematic is repair of an aging infrastructure, which is roads, bridges, IT, and storm sewers, which is financed through the Capital Improvement Program. These long-term assets are in eager need of repair and replacement. This, accompanied with maintaining staff levels that continue to deliver better than adequate municipal services to the citizenry, adds to the aforementioned fixed costs. The operating budget proposed spending level is $31,997,142, and the estimated revenues and expenditures are contained within it. Budget development, discussion, and analysis. Significant events for 2015 have been the negotiation of 4 union labor contracts, of which 3 remain in the negotiation stage, and 1, the police labor contract, is in the arbitration stage. This extensive labor negotiations, as well as settling lawsuits stemming from previous staff, are reasons that the 2015 could be considered a year of personnel for the municipality of Monroeville. Since personnel is approximately 2/3 of the budget in wages and benefits, the unresolved labor contracts makes 2016 a budget challenge. Even though the municipality of Monroeville and the vast majority of municipalities and cities across the Commonwealth have fiscal challenges, council and staff are taking steps to meet these challenges. The steps the council and staff will be taking to reduce expenditures and increase revenues are outlined in the ensuing budget message. A few of those challenges facing Monroeville and other communities in the Pittsburgh area, as well as the Commonwealth, are stagnant revenues and rising costs. As previously mentioned, the most notable increases occurred with health benefit premiums and pension obligations. One of the main fiscal challenges for Monroeville was to overcome the past habit of utilizing the fund balance to make up the revenue deficiencies. During the past decade, Monroeville was always fortunate to have a surplus of unassigned fund balances available from prior years to offset expenditure increases. In 2004, we had a $28 million fund reserve. We no longer have that, and I'll get to the fund balance as we move along here. For many years, these unassigned fund balances were utilized to balance the annual budget. One reason for a healthy fund balance over the years was the sale of the sanitary system in 2002 to the Monroeville Municipal Authority for $12.4 million. This inflow revenue built the community park for $5 million, helped procure capital equipment through the paying of debt service of bond issues, and generally subsidized the increasing expenditures of the municipality, which prevented a tax increase until 2014. Additionally, the unassigned fund balance policy was reduced from 15% in 2009 to 7.5% in 2013. However, under a resolution in August of 2015, Council adopted a policy to maintain a minimum 10% unassigned fund balance. This is an increase from the 7.5%, but much work needs to be done with respect to the fund balance, which I'll discuss later. As mentioned above, the infrastructure of the municipality, roads, stormwaters, traffic lights, parks and recreation, assets, vehicles, buildings, are aging. It is critical that these deteriorating assets of the municipality are addressed in the very near future. The deterioration of the capital items will only get more expensive as time passes. Also, the ill effects of the problems will result in a decreased property values and population, and the overall quality of life in the municipality. In 2014, the approach I recommended to council for the 5-year capital improvement program was to begin to transfer $1 million from the general fund to the capital improvement fund. This approach would replace the policy of exclusively financing capital items through bond issues. Our debt service right now is 11% of our general fund. The General Finance Officers Association recommends nothing over 10%. We are maxed out floating bonds. We cannot do it anymore until approximately 2023. This strategy would retire existing debt without incurring new debt and enhance the municipality bond rating. Staff began steps to implement this policy in 2015, but the $1 million transfer from the general fund to the capital improvements in the future will not prove adequate to address these needed improvements. An adequate stream of income to update fixed assets is needed in this municipality. An example of this capital problem is the Environmental Protection Agency's Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer System, otherwise known as what's called the MS4. The goal of the MS4 is to reduce the discharge of pollutants to the surface waters of the Commonwealth and across the country. This stemmed from the Federal Clean Water Act of 1972. An MS4 is a system of drainage including roads, storm drains, pipes, and ditches. This is not combined to a sanitary system or part of a sewage treatment plant. Monroeville has 68 miles of stormwater. It has 3,047 storm inlets. It has 338 manholes. It has 707 outfalls, and it has 34 detention facilities, all of which are in need of repair and replacement. Many communities have funded stormwater management from property taxes paid into the general fund. However, there is a great competition for municipal general fund dollars for other visible municipal programs. Stormwater management improvements typically have a low priority unless a municipality is reacting to recent storm and regulatory action. The total cost of stormwater management is not readily apparent when these costs are sprinkled among the general fund departments. As the stormwater management costs increase, general fund budgets are often not increased to meet those needs. Increasing the property tax for a program is viable to a point. Tax-exempt properties do not support any of these costs, even though it has been shown that many of them, such as governmental properties, schools, colleges, and universities, are major contributors to stormwater runoff. Finally, the property taxes are based on assessed property value. The cost of stormwater service to individual properties bear no relationship to the assessed value of a property. Therefore, this method of recovering stormwater management costs might not be equitable. Other financing for this federal mandated program has to be realized in the near future. Another continuing fiscal challenge of the municipality is the legacy cost for retirees. These are in the form of pension obligations, retiree health benefits, and insurance costs. As employees retire, this expense continues to increase. A significant number of employees have retired in recent years. And in addition to the pension commitments, we're also for post-retirement health benefits. Currently, the municipality pays health care for retirees of 144 former employees, and we pay for active employees of 119. I want to repeat that. We pay health care for 144 former employees, and we pay for active of 119. I'm not saying we're paying more for them because we have dependents on the active, and there aren't a lot of dependents on the for the retirees. However, we're paying more for the retirees as far as individuals than our own active employees. Currently, the municipality pays health care, Moreover, beginning in 2014, pension obligations were added to the liabilities of the municipality's balance sheet pursuant to the Government Accounting Standings Board number 67 and 68 pronouncements. Placing pension obligations on the balance sheet of the municipality across the country will affect their bond rating and hence the rate of the capacity of the bonds they issue. In ensuing years, it is anticipated that retirees' health benefits, OPEB, will be mandated to become part of the local government's balance sheet, which will increase the reported financial liabilities and bond ratings. This is further detailed in the budget message. The revenue discussion is outlined as far as the 2015 comparison to 2016. Just some items on the revenue discussion. We take in approximately $24 million, which is approximately 75.1% in revenue generated from taxes. We collect approximately 97 to 98% of that, if not maybe approaching 99%. The real estate tax is proposed to remain at 4 mills. However, this depends on council's policy, programs, and decisions for the budget for 2016 and the budget hearings coming up. Some items on the revenue: delinquent business privilege tax and mercantile tax. In 2015 was the first full year for the reinstituted position of auditor. This position was vacated in 2012 but staffed in 2014. This position audits the gross revenue of businesses in the municipality for these taxes. Thus far in 2015, this position has captured an additional $454,000. With the auditor position entering its second full year, the tax office will continue to uncover delinquent and unfunded business privilege and mercantile tax, which will prove equitable for all business owners in the municipality. The business privilege tax itself. In September of 2014, the Commonwealth Court ruled that a local municipality could not collect or levy a business privilege tax against a taxpayer for gross receipts acquired through a real estate leases or lease transactions. The court based its decision on the fact that the Local Tax Enabling Act specifically prohibits the levy of taxes on leases and lease transactions. An example, the mall. An example, the different strip malls that have leases with their tenants. And this also extends to rents generated therefrom. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court granted allocatur, which is permission for appeal, and the case is currently awaiting oral argument as of this writing. If the Commonwealth Court's decision is upheld, it would mean an annual loss in revenue in approximately $550,000 to Monroeville. The municipality has continued to budget these monies. However, if the Pennsylvania Supreme Court sustains the appellate court's decision, the municipality will supplant these funds through the fund balance reserves of 2016. How to replace these funds or reduce expenditures post-2016 will be a decision of council in consultation with staff. General Fund Reserve, as I mentioned before, a little bit more detail on that. As mentioned above, the General Fund Reserve, or fund balance, has been for many years to balance the budget. For the first time in 10 years, the fund balance of December 31st, 2014, increased instead of decreasing due to utilizing the reserves of the past and past budgets and avoid a tax increase. This increase in the fund balance was due, in part, to the 2014 real estate tax increase of 1.569 mils. The 2015 fund balance is estimated at $5,666,390. This is an increase from the 2014 fund balance of $524,456. However, the 2016 fund balance is estimated at $3,435,272. This decrease in the fund balance for 2016 is due to the transfer to the OPEB fund, approximately $1 million. The transfer can only be made by one of the options listed below. Utilize the projected fund balance, which is budgeted. Increase 1/2 mil, which would generate approximately $1.1 million. Do not make the transfer to the OPEB fund, or a combination above. This is indicating that 2016 is a watershed year for finances in the municipality moving forward, meaning it could be a tax increase this year or possibly at the end of 2016 moving into 2017. It is not the operating budget in the municipality. It is more capital that I've outlined where we need to increase a steady revenue stream for the capital items in the municipality. Our roads, bridges, stormwater are deteriorating, and because we cannot float bonds, we have to do something about that. Moving on to expenditures. From last year, This year's 2015 budget, I budgeted the Monroeville Code needs to be updated. This is an ongoing project with an estimated $8,000 remaining. The total cost is $18,200. Health benefit premiums. Health benefit premiums for employees are anticipated to increase 14% in 2016 from our current carrier, Highmark. However, as of this writing, staff is evaluating requests for proposals from 4 different brokers. This increase could prove less if proposals from a different carrier who mirrors the current benefits pursuant to the collective bargaining agreements with 4 labor unions comes in less than the current totals. In addition to the current health benefit premiums, although not taking effect in 2016, staff is evaluating the potential cost of what is known as the Cadillac tax. The Cadillac tax is a premium that employers across the country will pay on high-priced health care plans. By 2018, any health care premium that exceeds $10,200 for single status or $27,500 for family status will have to pay 40% over that in an excise tax. The intention of this tax under the Affordable Health Care Act is to raise money for health care reform and incentivize employers and employees to better consumers of health care. Currently, the municipality yearly incurs $24,881 for family and $8,058 for single employees. It is assumed yearly municipality will incur this cost in 2018. This is a provision under discussion in the labor contract negotiations. The health care benefit premium increase will equate to approximately $109,000. Also, I have, as a carryover from the 2015 budget, included at least the first stage of a comprehensive plan update, which I've budgeted $30,000 for that to continue with, to maybe initiate the comprehensive plan. Monroeville is changing, and we haven't updated our comprehensive plan in 10 years. As Rabbi Simons was mentioning up here before, there's a different demographic change, not saying it's better, not saying it's worse, but Monroeville is changing, and a comprehensive plan is a plan laid out for 10 to 20 years on how to accommodate those changes with respect to demographics, parks and recreation, transportation, housing, and a multitude of other facets. Capital expenses. The capital improvement program I have outlined below, and as I mentioned before, we're going to be transferring $1 million into that. But over half of it is already spent. We used to put $1 million into our roads every year when we floated bonds. Last year, beginning in 14 and this year and continuing into 16, we'll be putting only $250,000 into the roads, and that's $250,000 out of the $1 million. But also what we've been doing is we've gone to a lease program with our vehicles. And right now our lease payment coming up in 2016 will be $317,439. And that is for the two fire vehicles that we leased this year, 7 police vehicles, and 4 public works vehicles. And the total lease assets equals $1,833,214. Okay, and also part of that will be $27,000 will be for the recycling truck, which we received in a grant for $250,000, but our match of that is $27,000, and that will be coming out of the capital improvement program. So the total expenditures for the capital improvement program right now are $595,217. So we have about $400,000 to fix capital items in the municipality, which is not nearly enough, not close to it. Funding other post-employment benefits, otherwise known as OPEB. As I mentioned, we have developed a strategy to put $1 million into the OPEB fund, and then also each quarter take out approximately $250,000 or whatever the cost is, that the cost is for the retiree health benefits. As I've just mentioned, we have more people on retiree health benefits as we do employees in the municipality. And that will continue moving into 2016. We should be putting $2.2 million into the OPEB fund, and we're only putting $1 million. It has an actuarial liability of approximately $24 million in the OPEB fund. Most, and I said this last year, most municipalities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania don't even have a pension obligation that big. And our OPEB fund is bigger than most pensions, because there are a lot of smaller municipalities in the Commonwealth. Minimum municipal obligation, which is the pensions. As I mentioned before in the resolution we just passed, which was for 2015, next year in 2016, the police pension plan will receive $2,173,486. The non-uniform, $1,166,564. One item that I failed to put in the budget message is that in talking with council members, we wanted to put in for a new code enforcement officer, and Mr. Hugus has done that, and I want to extrapolate on that a little bit, but that is also in the budget. Mr. Hugus will bring that up when he gives his presentation, as all the department members will, beginning on October the 28th. The general fund balance analysis is on page 11, and I'm not going to go through that. The council and the public can look at that. Also, one last item. I had all the department heads in the beginning about 3 months ago outline their goals for 2016, and council can look at that, and also public. I think it's more condensed, and I think it is supposed to reflect the money that they have put into their budget, their goals. So when they come up and they give their presentation, their goals are going to reflect the money that is in their budget. So everybody understands why the money, or the lack thereof, because the budget is virtually the same as last year, in what they're asking for and where that money is going. And I have concluded, unless anybody has any questions from the public or council.
Before I open up for the council or public, and we will get back to the public comment, Tim and I have talked. I've asked Tim, and with council's approval, next year that we have a series of a couple, maybe 2 to 3 public meetings where you understand. Tim, you put out a lot of great information. I'm sure the overwhelming majority on council understands that, but I'm not sure that when you throw all that out at one sweep, that the public's going to be able to swallow that whole. So I've asked that we, please, council, consider at least 2 to 3 different public meetings. And I really would like, and I'm very sincere when I say this, we need your input. There's, as Tim said, 2016 is going to be a watershed year where you're either going to agree to another tax increase going into 17, or you're going to even request more cuts out of the municipality. But one of the things that Tim, and I'm glad he brought it up in length, is our infrastructure issues, be it the buildings or the roads or whatever. We truly do, if we're going to stay a viable community, we have to address those issues, each and every one of them. Now, I know we're not going to be able to do it overnight, but again, on these public meetings, please tell your neighbors, your friends, this room should be filled with residents, A, getting the information and understanding it, and B, we want to hear what you have to say. And now I will open it up to council before I go back to the public.
One thing, I mean, Mr. Lally, our Chief Financial Officer, he has a condensed version, which I wish Sean would go through as far as the budget facts.
Is that online?
We can put it online.
Put it online.
Okay.
I can read that over, too. I thought you were going to cover that.
No, Sean, you go ahead, and you can cover that.
But this will go online, though, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. It's a condensed version.
But that's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Sean, if you would.
Mayor, members of councils, this is basically condensing everything that Tim talked about through the budget message. And it's on the very front. I passed it out last week, and it says budget facts. Our expenditures and revenues, as Tim said, are $31,997,142. They are matching this year as they were last. Our expenditure budget incurred a 0.38% increase from 15 to 16. The lion's share of this increase represents labor and all associated costs of employment. An additional revenue increased by 0.36% as well. Of the $31.9 million expenditure budget, 64% or $20.3 million are wages and associated costs. The municipality's annual debt service for 2016 is $3,233,000 and change, which represents past bond issues. This figure represents approximately, as Tim mentioned, 11% of our expenditure budget. Our minimum municipal obligation this year came in at $3,347,976.81. This was allocated between Janie Montgomery, which represents is the broker for the police pension fund, PMRS is our non-uniformed employees, and Vanguard, which is the CVB. Those figures, once again, are 11% of our general fund expenditures as well. Our largest portion of revenue, of course, is tax collection, which next year is estimated to comprise $24.045 million, and that is graphically represented on page 2 of the revenue section. Real estate taxation is calculated on millage. Currently, 1 mill generates $2.389 million in revenue. On a positive note, road salt has decreased in price from an annual cost of $634,320 to a budget request of $560,000. Most of that was based on last year's salt was $79.29 per ton. This year's bid came in at $69.29, so we did see a pretty significant decrease there. Liquid fuels allocation also increased, which adds to the 0.36% increase in revenue from $661,000 to $777,000, which represents a 17.5% increase in liquid fuel revenue that came in for next year. Liquid fuel money, or that allocation, is primarily broken down into things like street lighting at $310,000, traffic signals at $557,000, and snow removal materials at $560,000. All of those items cost $1.4 million. We offset that with the liquid fuels allocation. Our healthcare costs have increased by 14%, or $425,000, to a total of $3.467 million for the healthcare in the municipality. Positions that we are currently trying to fill with cost, planning, new hire would be around $92,480. A mechanic foreman came in at $116,893, and an engineering tech position came in at $95,479. These figures all total to $386,860. That is inclusive of benefits. That's not just straight wages. Our capital improvement program, $1 million will be placed into the CIP account. Some of the uses will be road paving, approximately $250,000, vehicle leasing, $205,000, and a pumper truck. In 2015, we also had savings on fuel costs of approximately $188,600, which was solely based on the market factors and the price of gasoline coming down per barrel.
Well, once again, I'm just going to say this, that again, we have a lot of acronyms going out there, and again, we on council understand that, but I think you, the public, need to ask those questions. What does that mean, like the liquid fuels? And there's quite a few that you may not have a clue, and again, why would you? You leave that up to council and the administration, but since this is a watershed year coming up in 2016, I'm very serious. You need to hold our feet to the fire, if you will. For the simple fact is, it's going to boil down to just the two issues, either a tax increase or cuts or a combination of both. It's really going to be your choice, and you need to let us know. And now I will open up to council for any comments.
I'd just like Sean to explain to the public, the liquid fuel allocation. Where do we receive that money from, and why do we receive that?
Liquid fuel money comes from the PA Department of Treasury, and it's an allocation based on the amount of roads that is covered in the municipality for service work and salt removal. and we get an allocation based on that, and they send it to us annually. We don't know what that number is traditionally until about, we're in the printing process of the budget. This year it came a few days early, which was nice. And based on statewide allocations, we had an increase of 17.5%, but it's determined solely on the amount of work that we do in the municipality with the number of roads and so forth.
Will that allocation be affected by the problems that are going on within the state budget?
That money has already been, it hasn't been doled out yet, but it has been agreed that that's what we are going to receive for 2016.
I wanted the public to understand that it's coming to us, it's not leaving us.
Yes.
We're receiving revenue and it's not an expenditure.
It's not an expenditure.
Thank you.
I mean, if I could add to that, I mean, that money is spent before we get it. And what that money goes for, it goes for the street lighting, and it goes for road salt.
And what's the cost of a street light, one street light?
We pay, I believe, Sean probably, $330,000 a year, I think.
I think it's
is the figure.
$55 a light, am I correct, a month?
I don't have a per
think
light
that's
cost.
I'm pretty, that's pretty accurate. It's
That's why
about
we always say if a
$55.
lights burn out, make sure you get it turned on,
Yeah,
but we
right.
pay for
We're
it.
paying for it anyway. If a street light goes out, we pay for it anyway.
But last year in our audit for liquid fuels, I believe we had around $310,000 for streetlights that was spent, so that would be divided by the number of streetlights in the municipality, and that would give you the unit cost.
They changed the bulbs, didn't they? Didn't they go to a different type of
Just,
bulb?
yeah,
They're
just
going-
10. We went to 10 LED. Now, whether it's been already done, I'm not sure, but I know we're doing that, and they have to be consecutive on one street, and it is a savings, unquestionably. And Jamie Story gave a little presentation, I think it was back in June, on that
That's
issue,
correct.
if I'm not mistaken, in June.
What was the cost to the municipality for that?
Well, to remove the grant, there was a grant on that, Paul, I believe. Am I correct? A grant on that?
I don't remember the details.
Yeah, I can't remember the details, but there was a grant, and I'm going out on a limb here. I believe it was from the Southwestern Commission, I believe, and you could apply for it. You only got 10 LED lights.
But there was we could get more than 10 if other people didn't apply for it, if I remember correctly.
That could be, and I'd have to look at the details, and I shouldn't say anything, because I can't remember, that was 4 months ago, I can't remember all the details.
Once again, council will open up any questions or comments before I go to the public. Okay, now we'll open up for public comment on any item you would like to address council. All I'd ask is please sign in, state your name.